Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year. For my first video of the year, I wanted to do something I haven't done in a while, which is TV shows. Before I continue, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get more content and opinions on films, books, and TV shows from me. Anyway, I'm 90% sure that the last show I did a video on was Julie and the Phantoms, and that was like back in the summer of 2021. Side note, I'm very upset with Netflix for canceling Julie and the Phantoms. So anyway, I've spent the first week of January doing nothing but watching movies mainly, but I also finally got around to finishing You on Netflix. You is an interesting show, mainly because of the fact that before I even watched the show, I pretty much already knew what was going to happen. So that being said, I'm here to answer the question, how did knowing what was going to happen shape and change the way I watched and experienced the show? And also, what did I think of the show itself? I'm gonna start off first with my overall thoughts. So, You, again, is an interesting show. The concept is a guy stalking a girl whom he became obsessed with. Normally, when you hear of such a thing, you're probably like, okay, what a creep. He needs to be arrested and get the hell away from me. But somehow, You has captivated a lot of viewers, and I guess some people are also kinda into Joe. That I'm pretty sure is a hot white guy syndrome at play. I don't know exactly what it's called, but for this video, we're gonna call it that. And it sounds exactly what you think it's supposed to. He's a horrible dude, but because he's played by the very handsome Penn Badgley, there's some leeway you give him. Obviously, no one would condone his actions in real life, but he also sort of gets a pass from people because, well, this is fictional. That then sets up the whole art imitates life debate or something along those lines. So yeah, Joe is not a likable guy and is clearly problematic, but some of his thoughts are just hilarious. I'll go more in depth about his voiceovers later on in the video. I thought that season 1 was okay. Not super wow, but okay. I think I kept fast forwarding a lot through the episodes. Season 2, on the other hand, would probably have to be my favorite season. Maybe it's because I love Victoria Pedretti, aka Love Quinn, but it was a lot more entertaining than the other 2 seasons. And 40, oh my gosh, I didn't realize like how much I'd love him. My friend Harley warned me that I might not like him at first and that he'd eventually grow on me, but I loved him from the very first scene. He was such a fruity himbo and he totally deserved better. That being said, and maybe it's just me, but I kind of wish they had 40 and Joe end up together. Like, their dynamic was just everything. 40 had too much energy and Joe barely had any energy. They would have made for like such a cute couple, honestly. And Love, God, I adore her. Yes, she ended up being a killer and just as toxic as Joe. So why is it that people love her? I think apart from pretty privilege, it's because we have spent too long demonizing women who become unhinged. And to be fair, in season 3, she only becomes even more unhinged because Joe gaslit her. So Love is far from a perfect character and she is flawed, toxic, and privileged. But despite her and Joe's flaws, the show gives them both depth and complexity. They're bad people, but they have moments of goodness. Plus, it's an insane show with insane characters, but it's fun to watch because it has messy characters making like poor decisions time and time again. Looking at you, Joe, and your never-ending cycle of stalking women. Now, I'll try to explain the way spoilers have managed to somewhat change my viewing experience. I'm on Tumblr, so I see gift sets of shows all the time, and You is a pretty big show on Tumblr. I never really planned on watching the show, so I figured, what's the harm in going through the tag? So I found out that Joe killed Beck, Love was actually insane and not innocent, and that they killed off Love in season 3. That and my friend Harley and I were chatting on Discord, and she was giving me her reactions as she was watching the show, and I also did the same with her when I started watching the show. So if I recall correctly, Love being a killer in season 2 was a pretty big plot twist. If you didn't know that Love ended up being a killer, like, it was definitely surprising. But since I knew about the twist, I was trying to keep an eye out the entire season for hints that might show her true nature. The closest, I think, was in the first episode of season 2, where she showed up at the DMV the same time Joe was there. I was like, oh dang, she's showing her crazy already? But as it was revealed at the end of the episode that Joe actually started stalking Love before he was shown to meet her on screen, I was like, oh, okay, so no hints yet, she's just a ball of energy. And she did an amazing job of hiding her true nature until the very end. But at the same time, it wasn't too shocking. Remember, we're following Joe's perspective throughout the entire show. We're only shown what he sees and what the director wants us to see. Like, take their first meeting, for instance. As you can see in this clip, the camera is angled so that we're watching Joe watching Love. But then when we're presented with a flashback in the finale, we saw how Love saw Joe. So again, I wasn't too shocked when the reveal came because I knew what was gonna happen. But it did make me want to be more attentive whenever Love showed up on screen to see if there were any hints. I concluded there wasn't, but that's only because of the story being told from Joe's perspective. As mentioned, You functions in such a way that makes Joe maybe not super sympathetic, but sympathetic enough and maybe a little relatable for the audience. And the most effective tool was the use of voiceovers. With Joe's voiceovers, we're brought closer to his subjectivity. That, and he provides a lot of context with his voiceover monologues. Honestly, I'll have to say that You is a very voiceover heavy show, and it almost feels like a visual audiobook. I'm aware that that's basically like a show or a movie, but having the character reacting to things in his voiceover was just a really interesting choice. Some of his thoughts are just so relatable, which is insane because he's a freaking serial killer. Yes, serial because he's killed more than 3 people over a period of time, but I digress. One of his very relatable voiceovers was in 2.1, where he first sees Love.
Hello? You? No, fuck, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna try to figure out who you are.
Yes, again, horrible stalker dude. But his inner thoughts are relatable because everyone can relate to not wanting to fall back into old patterns, sometimes with their exes. And then he had another voiceover in season 1 where he was stalking Peach and jogging.
Until yesterday, I put all my effort into avoiding Peach. But you know what they say? Keep your friends close, and your enemies, keep losing your enemies because you're so goddamn out of shape. Why does my kidney hurt? This is torture.
Again, relatable, especially if you don't do much exercise. So overall, You is a crazy, messy, and hilarious show. The characters are flawed and toxic, but watching them make bad decisions is just hilarious. Watching the show despite being spoiled doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it. It only helps me try to be more attentive and figure out how the events in the season would lead up to the twist. And Joe is a horrible person, there's no denying that. But his voiceovers not only provide context for his actions, but it's part of what makes him somewhat relatable and sympathetic. His reactions to certain things are relatable and makes him a complex character and not one-dimensional. I can't wait for the 4th season, and I'm honestly hoping that Joe would get caught and sent to jail for his crimes. I think that that's the only fitting ending for him. And that's a wrap on You. My next video will be on Karen and McManus's The Cousins, and it will be up in late January to early February. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.